Hi there, listeners. One quick favor. Please subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast. It does make a difference and it helps others find the podcast. Thanks. Welcome to Not Suitable for Work. I'm your host, Peter C. Diamond. You think your office is nuts? Wait until you hear some of these stories.
It's a story I tell people as a cautionary tale of what not to do in a pressure-filled situation.
And there's nothing like making a joke and looking at a room full of people who, are just stone-faced, and they know that you blew it.
What about our professional dynamic has given you license to act in this way?
I realized she's kind of a mean girl.
With each podcast, I interview folks who have a humorous work story to share. Along the way, I'll offer advice to help you make sense of your own office nonsense. Don't worry, no careers were harmed in making Not Suitable for Work. Names and places may have been changed to protect the not so innocent. Without further ado, let's get this show on the road. You would be hard-pressed to read a business article or book that doesn't stress the importance of building relationships with coworkers. I mean, it makes sense. When you have a good rapport with colleagues, it's easier to collaborate, share ideas, and provide feedback. The vibe in the office is better, it's more relaxed, and people start to kid around. To cultivate these relationships, we often connect through a shared interest. Depending upon your coworker, finding these shared interests is often easier said than done. My guest is Shawn Farrell, a Senior Vice President, Group Creative Director. He thought he struck gold when he found a common interest with his coworkers, until he took it one step too far.
So I work in a group of young to mid-30s advertisers, right? And I'm on the older end in my 40s, and we're working together sort of very closely, constantly.
And like from a perspective, is this in like recent times?
Yeah,
like
so let's say this is like a year ago.
So it's a year ago. All right.
A year ago.
So this is current. This is fresh.
It's pretty fresh.
Yeah.
I mean, the wounds are still there. And I have not been a worker-outer in my life, right? And a lot of the folks that I work with, young, younger than me anyway, attractive, super professional, super on it with their jobs, they are worker-outers or people that are involved in fitness. And so
gym goers.
Gym goers. I wouldn't say gym rats.
Not gym rats, but gym goers.
Yeah, and so I found one of the things that I like to do is, I connect with people verbally or through storytelling, and I found myself in a position where I started working out and I could share my stories with these folks. So let me just pause and describe what we were going to ask.
Well, no, yeah, I was curious as to what was the impetus for starting to work out.
Just my old age, my hashtag dad bod.
Was that your hashtag?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. And I just wanted to be a better human being.
So you kind of came to this on your own.
Yes.
So this on your own, you decided, I am now,
I started to work out.
I'm going to start working out.
And this is, life is full of different compartments, but at the ad agency where I work, people tend to, over water or coffee, share a few things about their personal life. It's a way to bring people closer. I think it's what happens. And I find myself working with a few folks, and just to be really blunt, I'm in a room talking to 3 or 4 women. These are women that are in good shape, that are younger than me, that are, sort of looking good. And I start connecting with them, talking about my new workout routine at this place, Orange Theory.
So,
right?
yeah.
Am I allowed to say brand names?
Yeah, sure.
Right. So
and this is also one of the things that is commonly known is how do you build connections with your colleagues?
Right.
And so you do that through finding shared interests.
Yeah. So one of the women I'm talking to maybe goes to East Bank, right? Another one goes to Orange Theory. Two of them actually go to Orange Theory. And so I can connect and I can tell them, about my successes there, right? And one of the measures of success with this particular workout place is you get a splat point.
Okay.
A splat point is their branded way of saying your heart rate was in a certain zone for a certain amount of minutes. So I'm so out of shape that my heart rate is in this zone, almost at the near killing me zone, all the time. So I'm getting this inordinate amount of splat points, like 26 in a day, where the one woman that's in super good shape is getting 4. So she's getting pissed. She's like, why are you getting all these points? And I'm like, it's not because I'm good. I'm just walking at this point. But my heart is struggling so hard to keep up with my walking pace. So this becomes a connection point for us on a basically daily basis.
And Orange Theory, I've never been, but it is like people are like rabid Orange Theory.
Rabid.
Like it is a thing. Like I know people have gotten into it and they just like they go 6 times a week.
I'm married to someone who's a rabid Orange Theorist or theorist, whatever. And her like transformation to her body, the transformation to her like attitude is very real. I've witnessed it, and it's an awesome thing for folks.
And you thought I want some of that.
I thought I want some of that, right? And clearly your listeners can't see me, but it didn't take. But as the connection with my coworkers started to grow and we could talk about working out, I started to add more and more detail into my storytelling. And there was one day we were waiting for a client to arrive. We had a few minutes to kill. And so for everyone at home, can picture I'm about 6'3", and I started to act out some of the moves from the workout in a conference room setting. So maybe I'm doing some sort of lunge, maybe my one arm's over my head or my other arm's behind me, and it gets to a spot where I think I'm making this connection, but what I'm not attuned to is maybe this has become a little bit too much of a visual demonstration. And so one of my friends in the room, one of the 2 women I'm talking about here, picks up her phone and texts one of the other women.
Who's in the room.
Who's, maybe a few steps away. Oh my God, Farrell is now going through his Orange Theory moves. #vomit. But I didn't find this out later because out of the goodness of their hearts, they decided to tell me. What happened is the woman who I was explaining this to actually texted it to me. So the story was just that I wanted to bring up was be careful of A, what you use to connect with folks, but B, also when you're texting, be careful of who you're texting to. Because then I looked down and read the text, and at first I didn't get it. And I was like, wait, did you mean to, are you, and I went through all the stages of denial of like, oh, I'm in on your secret, to, oh, your secret is actually making fun of me. And, then there was laughter and like, apologies and stuff like that. But that was sort of just my one tale that I wanted to share about being careful about who you text.
Yeah. And
how you text.
And then what happened?
Well, so there was the awkwardness that happened from it for a few moments. Then there was, probably a month of me getting, like I had a lot of power in this situation where if I felt like I was being bullied by these 2, I could say, oh, what about, #vomit. Don't you guys feel bad about it? And then they would reel back and they would laugh and say, oh, we're sorry, we didn't mean it. It was just so funny. You were doing these lunges. But now it has continued on into the lore of my group a little bit. And we've recently had a client dinner where, to deliver some humor into the client dinner, this story came up. And we were at, all seated, like 6 of us seated around a 2 small table at Sienna Tavern. And so it was awkward anyway, because the client's 6'3", I'm 6'3", were sort of shoved into this tiny booth, and this #vomit sort of came up. And how it manifested now in my everyday life is the client, who will remain nameless, now refers to me not as my name, but as hashtag vomit in all of the emails. What does hashtag vomit think about this creative idea? What's hashtag vomit's take on this? Hey, check with hashtag vomit to see what he thinks. So now it's just in my everyday life. So
here's one thing that and it's like a question is, how do you feel about that, first of all? So how do you feel about that has kind of been now your nickname, if you will?
Well, I like endearing nicknames. I'm a person who loves connections with folks. I work with these two women still every single day, and they're both awesome and great at their jobs and really funny. I consider them friends. At first, when it hit me, I learned a lesson. I was like, all right, maybe the level of connection, maybe my bringing my personal stories into the workplace maybe I overdid it, right? People don't want to hear, when you tell someone you have the stomach flu, they don't want to hear the details, right? When you tell someone you're working out now, they're probably good with that. They can say, hey, good for you. You're making positive changes in your life. They don't need to see you show them, your number one lunge move that you do with the small weights or whatever. So that was the learning I had from it. And at first it was a little hurt, like, oh, I can't believe you'd text behind my back about this thing that I was so open with you about. But 2 seconds later, I was like, I know these two. I know their sense of humor. They were just having fun. And if it's at my expense, I'm perfectly fine having it. How do I feel today that this other client thinks it's funny? Sure, I think it's a team builder, and it sets us on level ground, right? And I sometimes go into a lot of meetings as the creative lead. There's a certain amount of gravitas with that. There's, pomp and circumstance around presenting creative. And I don't ever want to be the person that walks into a room thinking like what he's delivering, shit doesn't stink or whatever, right? So it's a nice equalizer for the room. And it's been really funny, like in client meetings as a sort of equalizer and door opener. So I don't really mind.
So it was interesting because in all my years of working in advertising, for many years I worked on a large team, and it was very common to have a nickname, and that kind of became your endearing. Actually, more than just being endearing, it was also an indication that you were being accepted. You were part of the team. Any thoughts on what you think my nickname would be from this group?
Can I ask a leading question?
Yes, of course you can.
Were you were acting in an account capacity?
So I was in a kind of a group account director, if you will, senior vice president, and I was given a nickname.
Well,
I was given it, right?
You were given it. Well, you have, Diamond as a last name.
Diamond
so it could easily come off of like, Diamond Jim or Diamonds or Gems or Precious Stones, maybe would be a funny one. And all the time I've known you've always had nice shirts. Someone could call you Shirts. I don't know. It's hard for me to guess.
Yeah. So the name that was bestowed upon me. Now, again, what I don't know, so this is also before social media and hashtags. So I'm sure there were discussions about this before, while I was not around. I'm sure there were discussions over drinks, and it was like, Diamond's nickname is going to be, you ready?
Yeah.
The grand reveal?
Yeah.
Fabio.
Okay.
Yeah. So why would you think Fabio? So it's,
Was he the...
Yeah, so Fabio is right. So Fabio's got the long, romance novel cover, long flowing blonde hair. I think from anyone who knows me, or maybe pictures you may have seen on me on Facebook, would clearly indicate that I do not have long flowing blonde hair or dark hair. But there was another thing that Fabio also was very known for on the romance covers that I have somewhat of a reputation for. So yes, shirt, at least 2 unbuttoned buttons on the shirt. So that's where the Fabio came from, and it stuck, and I embraced it. I was like, great, I'll take that. It could be a lot worse, so I will take that. I will embrace that. And it really was a term of endearment, and to this day, that group still refers to me as, Fabio. In fact, one senior person has me in her phone book as Fabio Diamond.
Oh,
Yeah,
there you go.
right. So it sticks, and that's why I was just curious from your perspective.
So this hasn't really stuck as a nickname, except from the one client who thought it was so hilarious that he now puts it in emails. But I do think office nicknames is an interesting topic, and I think we've all been, when you get into those groups, you get like, I'm hesitant to use real names, right? So,
we don't need to.
So there are definitely certain folks.
So do you have a nickname then?
I don't think that I have a nickname. I mean, you can ask. We'll ask the audience. Maybe someone will tweet in that there is one that I didn't know about. Maybe it is #vomit. But there are people that definitely fall into nicknames. We have one person we call Nice Guy because he's just always nice. Or there was a woman who worked on another team that I had, we called her Curls, and she was known for this amazing curly hair, and she sort of loved it. And nothing's ever mean-spirited, but also when there's several people with the same first name,
there has to be some
right. There's
some way of identifying them.
Yeah, there's like I knew a bunch of guys named Sam, and there was Carpenter Sam and curly-haired Sam, and Sam from the South, and that's just how you would do it. And then because I didn't even know all three of their last names. I still don't. I only know one of their last names to this day. So it's one of those things. I think nicknames really help, and they make people feel like they're a part of a larger group, as long as it's not hurtful, I suppose. Slightly teasing, like Fabio probably was teasing a little, but it was
teasing,
fun. Right?
But it was fun, and I continue to have both my top shirt buttons unbuttoned. Yeah, I wasn't going to change. In fact, it almost kind of embraced it even more. Of course.
Yes.
So one question I have before we wrap up for today is, one thing I just want to go back to is so you connected with them on the fitness thing, and then there was a little point where maybe you stepped over the line by showing the moves, if you will.
Yeah.
So any thoughts on moving forward? Like, how do you know now when you may draw that line of, Shawn, you know what? Like, just keep that on the inside. Like, no need to go there.
So I'm glad you asked that question, because I think of myself as a very open person, and I think one of the things that sort of has led me through my career is that I'm willing to sort of share, borderline overshare, because I think when you share parts of yourself with folks, you sort of build that sort of openness and relationship. So I'm not walking away from the idea of sharing with folks, even sharing personal stories or things that really mean or are emotional to me. I think what I've learned is that maybe dance-like moves in an office setting between 9 and 10 a.m. before people are caffeinated, is that maybe that was the miss, right? So had this happened at Snickers or Rossi's later, as we were celebrating a great day with the client, sure, it might have been a different story. But I don't think anyone was really ready for it. So it's just me being a little more mindful of
time and place,
right? I'm always going to overshare a little because it's sort of part of me, but I'm now going to think about it just a little bit differently as I go into it.
Shawn Farrell, thank you very much for being on Not Suitable for Work.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, listeners, you've heard Shawn's story. We want to hear from you. What have you seen at work today, this week, this month, that would make you #vomit? Post on our Facebook page at Not Suitable for Work. If you want more Not Suitable for Work or have a work story to share, be sure to follow us on Facebook at Not Suitable for Work. You can find our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or wherever you find your podcasts. If you have a question you want answered on a future episode, call us at 872-256-0827 and leave a message. I'm Peter C. Diamond. You can follow me on Twitter at Peter C. Diamond. Not Suitable for Work is produced by Matt Cunningham at Truthful Enthusiasm. Get your story online with truthfulenthusiasm.com. Until next time.